The South China Sea is one of the most important waterways in the world. But for years, this sea has been clouded by disputes, incursions, and claims, especially China's vast Nine-Dash Line. In 2013, the Philippines took an unprecedented step. It brought its case before the Permanent Court of Arbitration, or the PSA, in The Hague, invoking international law. But the question was simple. Will historic claims be able to override a legal maritime boundary?
In accordance with UNCLOS and under the rules of Annex 7, the Tribunal finds China's claims to historic rights within the Nine-Dash Line has no legal basis under the Convention. No feature in the Spratly Islands is capable of generating an EEZ. China has violated the Philippines' sovereign rights by interfering with its fishing and petroleum exploration, constructing artificial islands, and failing to prevent Chinese fishermen from fishing unlawfully in the Philippines' EEZ. Let it be known that this ruling is final and binding. It is not optional. This is not about power, this is about legal rights.
This award is a beacon, a legal affirmation of the rights of small nations under international law. We submitted ourselves to the rule of law and accepted the process. China refused, and yet the tribunal proceeded because UNCLOS allowed it. Our fishermen have long suffered, blocked, harassed, and watched our reef turn into military runways. We are not claiming what isn't ours. We are defending what is. Now we ask, will the international community help turn this award into reality?
大家早上好，我是被选中与你们今天的中国代表。This arbitration was unilaterally initiated by the Philippines. In violation of international norms, the tribunal lacks jurisdiction and are historical present in the South China Sea. This predates modern treaties. 中国不要遵守, China will not comply, and we will continue exercising sovereignty over the islands and adjacent waters.
I am the UN representative of Indonesia. We are not claimants, but we have spoken clearly and legally. In 2020, we submitted a note verbal to the UN. The Nine-Dash-9 lacks international legal basis and contradicts UNCLOS. Indonesia does not challenge China emotionally, we challenge it legally. Let Association of the Southeast Asian Nations remember, unity on principles is not aggression, it is responsibility. Regional peace must be rooted in the law of the sea, not fear of conflict. I am the UN representative of Japan. Japan was among the first to publicly welcome and support the PCA ruling in 2016. In 2024, together with Australia, the Philippines, and the US, we issued a joint maritime statement. Japan believes that the issue concerning the South China Sea is directly related to the peace and stability of the region and is a legitimate concern of the international community, including Australia, Japan, the Philippines, and the United States, and thus Japan opposes any unilateral changes to the status quo by force, such attempts as well as any actions that increase tensions in the South China Sea. Japan believes in a free and open Indo-Pacific where disputes are settled not by force but by rules. China's actions undermine trust and stability in the region. We support the Philippines because we support the international order that protects us all.
I am the UN representative of Australia. Australia remains committed to working closely with regional partners like the Philippines, Japan, and the United States to promote peace, stability, and respect for international law in the Indo-Pacific. It emphasizes the importance of national sovereignty and the United Nations conventions on the law of the sea. As the foundation of maritime rules, Australia supports the rights to freedom of navigation and lawful maritime operation. Recent joint maritime exercises with its allies highlight shared values and a unified approach to regional security. These activities reinforce the belief that disputes should be settled through dialogue, not force or coercion. Australia continues to advocate for trust building and open communication among nations. It upholds a rules-based regional order where all countries, regardless of size, can act freely and make sovereign decisions. Through strong cooperation with like-minded nations, it seeks to maintain stability and prevent conflict. Overall, Australia's action reflects its enduring commitment to a peaceful and secure Indo-Pacific. We stand by our original partners not just in words, but through cooperation and exercise that reinforce our collective presence.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Glazer from CSIS. From a strategic lens, the ruling was a sweeping victory for the Philippines, but the lack of enforcement mechanisms left implementation to international pressure. China's rejection of the verdict and use of gray zone tactics, intimidation short of war, undermines the tribunal's authority and emboldens coercion.
My name is Gregory Pauling. I am the director of AMTI. This is not just a legal win, it's a legal earthquake. The tribunal struck down the 9-dash line and ruled that China's historical right claims have no basis under UNCLOS. None of the Spratly features qualify as full islands, not even Itu Aba. That's a big deal.
Hello, I am Amy C. Wright, former U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense. The tribunal confirmed that China violated the Philippine sovereign rights, from blocking oil exploration to damaging coral reefs through artificial island building. This ruling gives the Philippines and its allies a powerful tool, but without unity and sustained pressure, it could be ignored.
Hello, my name is Michael Green. I am the former senior NSC official. Historically, big powers have resisted international rulings, but global opinion matters. If enough nations stand behind the Philippines, China might eventually feel the cost of isolation.
Hello, my name is Chris Johnson and I am a former CIA China analyst. We should expect a delayed but firm reaction from Beijing. However, they'll likely wait until after hosting the G20, then assert strength, possibly by building on Scarborough Shoal. They've done it before, like with the Mischief Reef. If they go further, like declaring an ADIZ, it risks military escalation. Hello, my name is Murray Hebert and I'm a senior fellow CSIS. The outcome depends on the sustained international support. So far, only a few countries back China's position, while more than over 40 recognize the ruling's authority.
Good afternoon. I am Christine Pichel Medina from the Graduate Institute Geneva, and I conducted a case study back in 2016 on the dispute between the Philippines and China. Based on my study, I found that the Philippines achieved a significant legal victory in 2016 through an international tribunal ruling that invalidated China's expansive maritime claims. However, despite the legally binding nature of the decision, China refused to recognize the ruling and continues to assert control over contested areas. This highlights the limitations of international law enforcement and the importance of diplomatic alliances in upholding maritime rights. Thank you.
The Integrated Bar of the Philippines has consistently emphasized the West Philippine Seas lies within the Philippines EEZ as defined under UNCLOS. Our fishermen have the constitutional right to livelihood, and the state must protect them from foreign threats. 1987 Constitution, Article 13, Section 7. We call for a more assertive legal and diplomatic strategy, use the ruling in multilateral forums, file further protests, seek broader support from the UNCLOS signatories. This isn't just a foreign policy, this is justice for our people.
The Council on Foreign Relations argues that this case represents a slow-burning influence, not a sudden provocation. What makes it powerful is that it did not challenge sovereignty, only maritime rights. This position made the ruling legally unassailable and diplomatically smart. However, China's ability to ignore it without consequence reveals a flaw in global governance. When the system lacks enforcement, law must be reinforced through diplomatic unity and pressure.
I am Eileen Baviera. As a scholar, I remind us, legal wins are fragile if not supported by political will. ASEAN's divided response weakened the ruling's regional impact. While countries like Japan and the US supported us, many ASEAN neighbors were hesitant. What we need now is public diplomacy, maritime awareness, and coherent foreign policy that maximizes this legal victory while preparing for strategic challenges. The ruling is not the end, it is the foundation.
The law is clear, but laws do not enforce themselves. People do. Nations do. The 2016 ruling stands firm, but what stands beside it?
The South China Sea ruling in 2016 marked a legal victory for the Philippines. But the sources discussing it reveal a more complicated reality. First, let's talk about the primary sources. Primary sources, like the arbitral tribunal ruling, appear neutral, but are limited by their lack of enforcement power. China's absence skewed the result, leaving the decision legally sound but politically fragile. There are two powerful images that reflect this contrast. First is a 2016 photo of the arbitration hearing in The Hague, which shows the legal process in motion, but without China's participation, it also captures the limits of international justice. Meanwhile, a 2024 image of the China Coast Guard vessels using water cannons against a Philippine supply boat illustrates the continuing aggression that defies international rulings. Another source is the Indonesia UN statement, which presents itself as neutral, yet its strong opposition to China subtly defends its own interests in the Natuna Sea, a contradiction in its claim of non-involvement. Another primary source is the US Department of Defense, which mentioned Australia and Japan. While committed to international law, they avoid naming China. Their preference for diplomacy over direct confrontation highlights how legal ideals are often constrained by political and economic realities. Now, let's talk about the secondary sources. Bonnie Glaser and the Asian Maritime Transparency Initiative provide policy-heavy, US-aligned perspectives that prioritize legal clarity but sometimes overlook power dynamics. Christine Medina and the Integrated Bar of the Philippines strongly support the Philippine position, but underplay enforcement limitations and long-term geopolitical risks. Meanwhile, the Council on Foreign Relations frames the ruling as a slow-burning influence, believing in laws shaping power, yet it arguably underestimates China's ability to defy legal norms without consequence. And finally, Eileen Baviera emphasizes that without public diplomacy and regional coherence, legal victories are fragile, where the ruling is a starting point and not a solution. 7 years after the ruling, and the world still waits. Boats still sail, reefs still disappear. But the law has not vanished. It is a compass, and the choice to follow it lies with us. This is not just about the Philippines. It is about whether law still means something in the 21st century.